Despite the difficulties involved, I thought I would make a passing attempt to address the emotional Congress at work in the years I was in touch with openly through the Postal Service. Peter Gabriel and Robert Fripp and Yoko Ono's attorney Amanda Harcourt. Back in the days when I didn't think much um, hot wiring was going on behind the scenes. I just thought I was trying to find a comfortable place where I could be in a learning setting. I had been lured to a school in West Virginia. I didn't think Roger Waters noted me or any of the other things that developed. Certainly didn't have insight into what was going on in terms of the play action. But when there's an emotional Congress at work, they talk about Pittsburgh and Seattle, of course, emotional intelligence, the lack thereof. So it's a handy way to sort of mitigate contradictions, hypocrisies, lies by saying, well, it's the way people feel about the situation that's important. Now, I have no idea what led Ken Crimson to make illegal tapes of me or to play act found art, which they had planned and set up. But I know that I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I considered them innocent of wrongdoing. Logic, I thought, was a problem. See, the thing about the communications is they went from being very intelligent, direct, to being very vaporous and ambiguous and oblique, even obstructive. And this translucence to transparent to opacity is in the presence in their art. Now, they gave everybody in the Pittsburgh who had a bad word or backbite to say about me the benefit of the doubt and withheld such considerations from me. I'll give you an example of how that plays in the itinerary situation in terms of um, actual investigation of what happened. After I graduated from high school, it had been a hard year. Though I was 40% deaf by then, I could still hear some music. It's the people who Amanda Harcourt, Yoko Ono advocated for, the Flame Over Africa crowd, told me the wrong day of Robert Fripp's Frippatronics. It didn't occur to me that Fripp had told them, please give that queerball who we tortured the wrong day so I don't have to see the pulpified object of my derision. I just assumed that they they didn't want me to have contact with Fripp because of the characteristics that I have as a person of being intelligent minded, and they knew what they had done to me. Well, one of the reasons you don't um, show adult things and adult thoughts and inundate adult childhood mind with adult purposes is that they won't understand. It will scare them and do them harm. Well, Fripp believes apparently very deeply that I should have understood postdoctoral theorems that were coming from the 1920s, the early Einstein crowd, when I was a battered 13-year-old deaf kid in Pittsburgh. The indecency and the absurdity of it extended to him, giving the benefit of the doubt to people who gave me the wrong day so I couldn't see his Frippatronics show. Me ending up hitchhiking all the way from Pittsburgh to St. Louis just to hear the show. That's the only reason I wanted to hear it too. You know, like everybody else, really admired him. And they had to poison that. King Crimson had to make it out that I was a fugitive, that I was away without leave, that the Hollywood pranksters who set me up on the road with weird people giving me lifts were somehow legitimate Army command. I mean, he was promoting Gurdjieff that summer. I went to the Western Washington University. I went to the St. Louis Public Library to take out a book on Gurdjieff to read it before the show, and talk to the philosophy department at Washington University, who were interested enough that they put me over for the night in a dormitory room. And I went to the show. Free concert, Street Side Records in St. Louis. It was like a few days after Jimmy Carter's spiritual Malay talk, which I saw in an East St. Louis motel. It was a scary adventure. The only reason I could bring myself to do that was I wanted to hear music. He gets the benefit of the doubt people who put me through such an inconvenience. And I make my way back home. And he's promoting this guy who was torturing people in Vichy under the German Gestapo. Legend is he killed Catherine Mansfield with this stuff. I believe it now. There was this bookstore called Schulman's, or Caliban Books, it was called, Red Handed Stealing Museum Books. He gave them the benefit of the doubt. Across the street, same Craig Street, Mandela Books, Steve Scioli insisted that he was like this with Robert Fripp. He gave them the doubt. So when Claremont gave me Fripp's address, I said, well, he doesn't want to hear from me. He likes these Pittsburghers. I gave Steve Scioli the address. I had no idea that those bookstores couldn't be implicated. I've never heard them Mandela closed before that. So I don't know. I'm not emotionally intelligent enough to know what to say about that. And then there was Vince Irie pimping, hot wire and illegal tapes around the world. King Crimson jacked up. Adrian Ballou gets. Why'd I give the postcard to Adrian Ballou? Fripp says, pass the tape over to be heard. Never pass the tape over to be heard. Pass the copy. Well, the tape is in your heart, my faggy. Nobody understands why I hitchhiked to St. Louis. Oh, and they're going to use that as spiritual cannon fodder for their oblique, majestic highness. Help me. I just wanted them to know there were bona fides involved. I see below. I wanted to figure out how to situate introductions. My pappy was chair of philosophy of education at the University of Pittsburgh. It was an important position. He was lieutenant in the U.S. Navy. He was Peace Corps leader. Amnesty International's Northeast regional director called him a hero. She'd taken classes with him. Peter Gabriel is going on hip hip. I'm the spokesman for Amnesty International. Hip hip for me. Well, I've got to find out what gives with these guys, right? I'm trying to make some introductions. Pappy told me to write a dissertation called God, Guns, and Rock and Roll, and I like that. I wanted it to be friendly. Can't ask a brother to like Reagan just because they're bootlicking him. God. So what did they send me? Dear James, your tape is in the New York office of VG Records, so I'll pass your letter over to them. But, which he underlined, in all fairness, the industry, which he parenthesized, which in this case I'm a part, end of parentheses, have so many tapes passed over to them that they are not generally returned. Never, which he underlined, so red but never. Pass the tape over to be heard, pass the copy, best wishes, Robert. And then he gives me a phone number. On the next postcard, I don't wish to be, it was a Picaresque historic village postcard. I don't wish to be involved in a personal correspondence, which is beyond my means, but I think you may be interested in Claymont School and Continuous Education, Route 1, Box 279, Charleston, West Virginia. 35414, some 207 423 4437 or something. I forget the details after all these years. I finally started to fade some of these details. 304-725-4437 or something. I call it, said this many times. I want to be with you. I want to be. Pappy died, and I went down for a weekend. I had a model of a tetrahedron. I was saying that the tetrad was a two-dimensional shadow of the tetrahedron. You can use the tetrahedron as a metaphor. One triangle represents the musicians, the other triangle is the audience, and you put them together, that's the industry, and you get a fourth quality, which is the music. What's wrong with that? He was using the same thing as a shadow or a tetrad. They talk about the tetrad of deity and stuff. Whoopie doopie. Bring a brother to tears for saying something contributory. Kind of schools where a teacher gets up and moves away from a deaf student who has to sit closer. You think I wanted to sit closer to that temperamental behemoth? And then I get confused because I'm deaf, in the rhythm section. He makes out like everybody could see who the Wonder Boy was. Emotional intelligence means unity of purpose in a museum thief ice racket, I guess. In Seattle, they say he talks wrong about he got me twisted, they get. Psychopaths. And Peter Gabriel's writing to me, Amanda Harcourt, she got the story chasing echo from me. I didn't. You sent it to her. I don't know what gets with you, boy. Wind, wind, and rain. Half-grown web feet and stuff like this. Me, they're putting my card in their Rolodex. That's what they said. What gives? Just a deaf kid who was having trouble finding my footing in the city of Pittsburgh. Because with all these murderous Huns playing super alliance union pranks of infradimensionality and ultra money sweepstakes. As this character here, he's an interpreter. Barry goes back. He was with me right before the Wuhan flu broke out at a tea party of Wuhanese military English-speaking Chinese girls. And then their main guy comes strong, like this, like this, like this. And, he's their main guy at that school. And then we get smacked with Wuhan flu. And I mean to ask him about that. He remembers that if he ever thought it was vision. He gets me on the horn. He's telling me about this science discovery that a billion years is missing from the cosmic bang. We obscure what these people have been up to. Now they're talking about a billion. How's that play in their infrapsychology? I don't want to see it. With the boil in the oceans and stuff. Lame over after crowd was the people who told me the wrong date. I tried to connect with the spiritual godfather from Thorl's community. And they're saying my carbon footprint was too big because I was happy humping with my girlfriend. My carbon footprint was so big I boiled the oceans. Got a major Fandango of Farce going on in that crowd.